Welcome to Do the Impossible. This really is about transforming your core emotional feelings. The way that you resonate in the world is the way that you live. It's what you attract. It's how you feel in your life. It's amazing stuff. But there are things that we think are impossible. Now, some of them we know are impossible. Some of them we think are impossible, but we know that if we only were a little different, they wouldn't be. Like, for instance, we think it's impossible to tell somebody our truth because it's considered, socially impolite to hurt somebody else by telling them what you feel sometimes. And that gets to be tough. We think it's impossible to have an opinion in a group where everybody is agreeing about something that we disagree with. But we do know that even though we would feel like an idiot, that's not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen really is for us not to take that on. We know that we could potentially get through it. It's not literally impossible. The thing that we do think is literally impossible is to change the ways in which we think and feel in such a way that they become automatic, that they become who we are. And that's because we think, well, I was raised this way. I've thought this way for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's just the way I am. And that's what we're taught, and that's what we believe. And we tend to stand at a crossroads. We stand at the crossroads between this really innate understanding that as spiritual beings, we really are limitless. We do have the ability to do so much and be so much. And yet we tend to get stuck at that crossroads in the place where we get into tough emotions and tough ways of thinking. And when things come up in our lives that are really rough for us, we kind of get to be a little bit at a loss, or a lot bit at a loss in my case. Now, when we go into spirituality or religion, we are at some point hearing that we are made of God stuff and star stuff, and that we are infinite possibility. We may even understand the concept. We might even feel the truth of that concept. But when it comes to truly emotionally and vibrationally and mentally, we don't really believe it because we haven't experienced it. We haven't been taught it. We don't understand its application. And we have to actually experience things, not just hear them in our head in order to truly embody them. So my work is to really teach the application of something that freed me from 32 years of depression, and that has freed me over the last 2 years so completely that I am a changed woman. And you can tell I'm not 25. So you can actually be an older dog and become a newer dog. So I want to help you understand how the energetic universe works within you, within each one of us, and how we can bring better and even easier life experiences into our lives when we become conscious in the way that we handle our emotions and the way that we can literally shift them. Now, I came to this work in a number of ways. I have been an actor for a very long time. And I love it. I love improv. I love being on stage. Put me on stage with a microphone. I love to do public speaking and all of that stuff. So acting is all about being really naked emotionally in front of other people. Actors love it. Public speakers fear it. And other people think we're crazy. That's okay. The other thing I am is, and have been for almost 40 years now, is really an intense student of the spiritual, in that there are truths that we hear, that we read, and we resonate. We say, "Ooh, I wish I could believe that." I have always applied myself to trying to figure out how to make them practical. I want to bring the spiritual into the practical. So I used myself as a laboratory. And as I started my journey, I had one really big, major honking problem. And that was that I was incredibly depressed. And I was in my 20s. So for 32 years, as I mentioned, I struggled with depression and anxiety. And I could tell you the whole story of why. But I want to say something a little shocking first. there's a point in the journey where telling our stories is really important. And for people, that the length of time that that's important and the reasons for which you might use the story all differ. But there's a point in the journey at which the story doesn't matter. What matters is getting out of the problem that you've been carrying for so long. We do have personal histories and a culture that tells us you're supposed to be happy, you're supposed to be able to deal with your problems really quickly, and you're supposed to be successful. And if you're not doing those things, there's something wrong with you. And really, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just focusing in one place. You are focusing on the tough stuff, and you're not letting any light in. You're not letting anything argue with it. You're not letting anything confront it. And so what we do, and I know what I did, I think I have about 19 PhDs in being hard on myself. And I've burned, I think, all but one of them. And for those of us who have very, very strong emotional bodies, and I'm talking about people with mental illness, people who are depressed or anxious or have chronic thoughts that won't leave them alone, we get stuck and we think there is absolutely nothing that we can do. We think, oh my God, there's just nothing I can do but push through it or pull it down, not think about it. And the only thing that we think we have are the external answers. And I'm grateful for the external answers, don't get me wrong. So we take the pills and we go to the therapy and we go to the group therapy and we go to personal growth, we go to spirituality, and we try. For those of us who it doesn't work, or it keeps us surviving but not thriving, it's very, very, very frustrating. I have always had immense dreams. I know I am meant to be a successful writer, thought leader, speaker. I can see who I'm meant to be, but I had to spend so much time taking care of myself, making sure that I was going to be alive. And that would stop my forward movement. So in July of 2022, I was in my 32nd year of depression. And it was always there. I might not have always been at the same depth, but it was always there. I could always feel it. And it was always like this tide that when was it going to pull me back under? When was it going to ruin my forward movement with my career choices? With being an actor, with being a communications professional, with being a speaker, being a writer. When was it going to interrupt? I was always on guard. And that does not leave a lot of room. In fact, it leaves no room to really look in a concentrated way for the positive. So in the middle of the night, in July of 2022, I had already been struggling for 2 weeks with an ongoing, what do they call it? An anxiety attack, a panic attack. And I was having a nervous breakdown. It was a lot of fun. And if you've never had like massive depression before that went on for for years, it's like having a tiny terrorist in your head that won't let you focus anywhere else. And no matter what you think, it always has the reason why you should be suffering. And it always sounds very reasonable. It's not a very nice person. Now, what I know is that I am a writer. I am all of these other things, but what I did was the worst thing possible. What had thrown me into the depression was I put myself into the wrong career. I thought I'll make a bunch of money by becoming a financial advisor. I'm about as qualified for that, you guys, as I am to be a surgeon tomorrow. It's not who I am. Not at all, never could be. And I was in it for 3 months and they decided to reduce my money coming in order to inspire me to work harder. And instead they inspired me to a nervous breakdown. Here's who I really am. I'm a workshop leader. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I make courses and teach courses. I make journals and publish journals. I help women leaders step into their power and out of their good girl personas and assumptions. That's who I really am. I'm here to help people make noise as themselves. So all of this was a pain in the butt. It was just really hard. There I am in the middle of the night, and I'm listening to Abraham Hicks. Now, if this is not your jam, the point of this is not about you should follow Abraham Hicks who is this woman channels this collection of people called Abraham. Her name is Esther Hicks, so Abraham Hicks. The point is to give you context, because what I was listening to was information about the path of least resistance. I had noticed that, for instance, when I fell in love, it was amazing. Somehow the world was better all at the same time. It was like an incredible thing happening at the same time. Was God just being nice to me? No, no. It turns out it was energy, but let's move on. Also, law of attraction. What the heck is that? You hear about it a million ways. Once I understood it, I got, oh, whatever I'm focused on, intently focused on, law of attraction goes, cool, I see you like that. I'll give you more of that. That explains 32 years of depression. Then I also learned about art of allowing. And I thought, oh my God, it makes so much sense. I've been pushing myself for 30 years, and it has not gotten me anywhere I need to go. So I'm sitting there in the middle of the night and I'm listening to all of this. And there's something that Abraham does. But I'm going to tell you first about the fact that the core of all of us, and this is in physics and spirituality, is energy. Before you are this thing, this is your spacesuit. Before you're anything, you're energy. And you can prove it to yourself if you're in a great mood and watch the people around you that you don't even know smile at you. And if you're in a really lousy mood, watch things around you just get tough. Okay? So one of the things that is really important also about this learning that I'm going to teach you is that our emotions are our radar. If we feel really, really, really wrong about something, really bad about something, then we're going to go, we have to understand that that means we're out of alignment with our true self, with our strong self, with our secure self, with our confident self, the one who goes, I know how to deal with things. I know that I'll figure it out. I didn't have that for a very, very long time. So what I did was I was listening to Abraham. And Abraham does these things called rampages of appreciation, rampages of self-love, rampages of forgiveness. And I knew how they worked. I knew that they were all about tiny, tiny steps on the emotional scale. I think these are a little out of order somehow. I'm not sure. So I'll try to do this well for you guys. But one of the things that I noticed was that the smaller the step that was taken, the bigger the impact. And I had heard that years ago in spiritual circles, that in the spiritual world, what is small is really big. So when we do something tiny, it's much bigger than if we do something that we go, oh, I'm going to do something really big. It doesn't stick with us because it's too far of a jump. It's like affirmations where if I'm broke and I say, I have $1 million, emotionally, I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. It's too big a jump. And so I can't actually transform from the person who's going to attract nothing to the person who's going to attract everything. Then I had to understand the emotional ladder. The emotional ladder is something we go up and down all the time in life. Until we have a way, and I call the way that I have created the 1% solution. So until I had that, I did not have a way to deliberately, consciously choose to rise a little bit. I didn't have the way to explain to myself, here's why it actually helps. So the part of my brain that would ordinarily go, well, so what? I'm feeling good in this moment. It won't last. That's the depressive, right? That part was no longer operating because I now understood the energetic rules. And part of the energetic rules are, if you deliberately and consciously take a very small step up, it sticks because you have left no room in there for yourself to argue with you. It is so powerful. You need nobody outside of yourself to convince you if you just take the small steps. All right. So the night of July, well, actually, I have a few more slides to show you. These are the rampages. I told you they might be out of order. I don't know how, but that's life. I love this. Person on the right used to be me. And really, recently was me when it came to the Great Discovery. I said, oh, I got to get up that ladder. Really, I got to get up there really quick. I got to get up there. No, no, that's not how it works. This is like the Great Discovery and life are both banquets. And if you try to eat them all in one bite, you're just going to get sick. It's not going to help. You're not going to move forward. You'll be lying on the floor with a very large tummy. So not recommended. So I want to say something to you about how interesting it is with the emotional ladder. If you look at the very bottom, it's about depression, no will to live, suicidal ideation, that kind of thing. And when you think about rising emotionally, we tend to go, I've got to go up to the top. I've got to go into cheerful. I've got to go into courage. No. If you even rise to disappointment, if you rise to self-pity or overwhelm or fear, those are higher vibrational energies. And so you feel better in that you are in more motion internally. It's fascinating. When you watch yourself rise, you also are not looking, when you use this technique, you're not looking to go literally step by step. If you do it with small enough steps, you will find yourself rising so quickly, you can't even keep track. It's really exciting stuff. So that's what I did in the middle of the night. I picked up a journal and I started writing. I said, I'm going to do the rampage. I have no idea how to do it. I know I have some ideas about how it works, and I'm just going to do it. And here's what happened. In 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes, I was no longer in danger as I had been 10 minutes earlier, where I thought, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do, because I'd already been to the ER. They'd already changed my meds. There was nothing else they could do. So it was me and me. And I started writing, and after 10 minutes, I was no longer in danger. Now, I was too busy writing and focusing to stop and go, wow! But it was a wow. And then for the next 5 days, you know what I did? I wrote. I didn't do anything but write. And I was listening to Abraham, and I was understanding these principles that I can now teach, and I was understanding them in my way. And at the end of 5 days, I was ready to keep writing. I was ready to write for the rest of my life if it kept me feeling better. But something was weird. And the something that was weird was that I wasn't depressed anymore. I wasn't anxious anymore. I was feeling self-worth. I was feeling calm. There was no residue, that there wasn't that feeling of being dragged under any minute. And it was absolutely incredible after just 5 days. Now, it's been 2 years. And what I do now is I coach people, I give courses online and in person. I have a twice a week meditation and conversation group that is free. I forgot to list it on here. This course, I created this course for the Great Discovery to show how this energy perspective actually works. In it, I have the steps for how you can try to apply this on your own. And you absolutely can. You totally can. Once you understand the basics, you totally can. Now, you've just been through sort of a basic introduction. The course is listed as intermediate. I do recommend it's about 51 minutes long, but it is very specific, it's very impactful, and it will give you this information and more. And so I do recommend that if you are struggling with emotions that you feel are holding you back, if you have patterns of thought that you really wish you didn't have, if you're being hard on yourself, if you're just used to working too freaking hard, pushing so hard, I'm talking about me, okay? Pushing so hard you don't even know how to rest. You don't give yourself what you need. Take a minute, take 51 minutes and watch this. It will really be worth your time. It's really good because energy is the real deal. What you feel is the sort of invisible magic that you're putting out to the world. All of us do it, and we're doing it individually and we're doing it communally. The more conscious we become about doing this deliberately, the more we get to choose and start to mold the events in our lives. Let me give you an example of something that happened for me. This is probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I was driving, I think it was in Boston, outside of Boston, and I had to stop at a toll booth. And it was a very hot day. And the woman at the toll booth looked like she might rip my head off. She just was not a happy camper at all. And I looked at her and I thought, oh, God, and I gave her my dollar or whatever. And I thought, oh. And then it hit me. This has to be one of the worst jobs on the planet. It would be for me anyway. And I just for a split second, as she turned away to make change, I felt compassion for her. And I thought, wow, this would be a horrible job for me. When she turned back around, I am not lying when I tell you her face had completely changed. And instead of growling at me, she was like, here you go, honey. I hope you have a wonderful day. And what happened? Energy happened. Path of least resistance happened. Allowing happened. That's what happened. That's how powerful energy is. And we humans have been taught to effort. We haven't been taught to leverage the incredible energy of lighter emotions. So it's definitely worth learning how to cross that bridge. And whether you want to start to learn it through this course, if you want to talk with me about this, there are so many different ways to really free yourself. Now, I just want to make it clear, I am not here to replace therapists or doctors. I'm neither. But what I've learned is that there are actually two different parts to depression. One is physical, one is mental. Because if that were not true, I wouldn't still have to be on the medication and I wouldn't be fabulous right now. I wouldn't have a completely fantastic quality of life. And when I say that, have I made a whole bunch of money yet? No. But you know what? I've made a whole lot of progress. And I am loving my life and I'm enjoying my life. And I'm learning more and more to love me. I mean, what can't you do when you like yourself, love yourself, appreciate yourself, can deal with really difficult situations in easier ways and in ways that you couldn't even imagine because you're now leveraging something nobody taught you is innately yours. It's incredible. It is total emotional freedom. If you have questions, you can always email me, Goodbye, Good Girl. And it's so called Goodbye, Good Girl because I question everything. I don't care if it's breaking the rules. In fact, if it's breaking the rules, I want to know about it, because in order to become our true, authentic, complete selves on this earth, we have to find the courage and the curiosity to question everything and to find answers that we don't expect. That's the real secret to it all, to find the answers we don't expect. And the Great Discovery has been incredible for me. It has really backed up everything I teach about allowing, learning, being fascinated, being curious, not hiding your light, and absolutely no more good girl. No, no more, or good boy for that matter. And I've tried for 20 years to be a successful entrepreneur, and I now consider myself on the successful entrepreneur path. And instead of sweating, I am having a good time. So here's all the free stuff that I can offer you. You can absolutely do a free discovery session of 30 minutes. You can get on my blog, which is very real. So if you don't like swearing, you don't want to get on there. It's not like it's constant swearing, but I'm saying it's just very expressive, and I'm very self-revealing, as you can tell. Nothing embarrassing. I'm just saying it's very free for all. And then, of course, the course. My mission is to help people, and especially women, be free to be who they want to be, regardless of what society teaches us, regardless of our own ideas that we've sort of pulled in from around us. And the last thing I want to say is I don't have children of my own. So kids, what do you want to ask me?